So, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to the virtual expo on pharma, healthcare, diagnostics, and hygiene, which is being hosted by 3SMG Events Private Limited and Kyungyeon Exhibitors Corporation of South Korea in association with PHDH World. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this 4-day event, trade bodies join 3SMG for a virtual expo platform for making India self reliant on pharmaceuticals and medical devices with a focus on anti COVID 19 technologies. The 4-day event will have participation of approximately 50 exhibitors and 2,000 visitors. The exhibitors includes pharmaceuticals, Ayurvedic drugs, diagnostics, medical devices, hygiene and sanitation. 3SMG, our host, is a company promoted by Mr. Susanta Mahapatra, who has been in the profession of trade promotions through international exhibitions and B2B events for over 25 years. The company is hosting the virtual expo with the support of relevant industry associations and trade promotion organizations to promote exports by building global supply chains in the Indian pharma and healthcare sectors. And ladies and gentlemen, as you all are aware, the expo will be live during September 22nd to 25th, 2020, and was to be inaugurated by the Honorable Minister of State with independent charge for shipping and Union Minister of State for Chemicals and Fertilizers, Sri Mansukh Mandavia. But unfortunately, he had other pressing commitments and could not join us for the inaugural session. But of course, we'll be sharing all the proceedings with him. And also, the inaugural function and addresses will be attended by industry leaders and trade promotion heads from India and overseas, and will include Mr. Udaya Bhaskar Reddy, Director General of PHARMEXCIL, Mr. Surinder Bhagat, Deputy Chief of Mission, Embassy of India, South Korea, Mr. Rajiv Nath, Forum Coordinator of EMIT, Mr. Madan Mohan Reddy, Whole-time Director of Aurobindo Pharma, Mr. M.Y. Kim KOTRA, Southwest Asia President, Mr. Munish Gupta, Vice Chairman, INCHAM. PHDH World is a virtual forum in response to the clarion call by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, for making India Atmanirbhar in pharmaceuticals and medical devices. The expo has a series of interesting webinars and panel discussions on medical device, biopharma manufacturing, vaccines, testing, innovation, and startups. The sessions as leaders from industry majors and we deliberate on strategies to tackle the immediate issues like COVID and also to recommend steps to make India a destination of choice for international investors. The expo has participation, like we already said, about 50 exhibitors and 2,000 visitors. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin with the proceedings of the inaugural session, may I kindly request all the participants to keep their mics, audios on mute, and it is put them on unmute only when it is their chance to speak. And also, if they could kindly have all the mobile phones put on to silent mode. We begin with the welcome address by Mr. Udaya Bhaskar, Director General PharmExcil. I warmly welcome you, sir, and kindly invite you for your welcome address.
Thank you very much. Respected Surinder Bhagat, the Deputy Chief of Mission, Embassy of India in Seoul, and Mr. Y. Kim, President KOTRA, and Mr. Madan Mohan Reddy, the past Chairman of Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India and whole-time Director of Aurobindo Pharma, and Mr. Rajiv Nath, Forum Coordinator AIMED, other dignitaries and ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, I would like to congratulate the PHDH World for organizing such an event. And PharmExcil is also very much delighted to be associated with this event. I'm very much happy that being a organizing partner of this event, certainly it's going to be a value addition to our member companies. I appreciate the organizers, even though we are the partner organizers. I appreciate organizers, the kind of deliberations and the kind of topics they structured, medical devices, vaccines, and testing, pharma API, and so many verticals are addressed, and eminent speakers are going to talk about that. So I would like to touch upon few issues. My time allotted to me is only 5 minutes. I'll try to conclude before 5 minutes. As you know that in this particular event, the exhibitors from India is participating, and the main focus is ASEAN and Korea. So ASEAN market, if you see that, it is our one of the important exporting destinations, and the size of ASEAN market is almost 16 billion. So if you see the Indian exports last financial year 20, we exported almost 20.58 billion worth of drugs to different countries. So ASEAN is, if you see the region wise, particularly after North America and EU, Africa. So, and LAC and ASEAN are very much important. And if you see the growth also, particularly in the last financial year, there is a positive trend, and even in financial year 21, from April to August, there is a positivity in that, and we recorded almost 11.3% positive growth. So in particularly in ASEAN, so Indonesia is known for their capabilities in manufacturing the vaccines, as well as Korea is known for biopharmaceuticals and biosimilars. And Korea is importing almost more than 100 million US dollars worth of drugs from India, and out of that, 82% are APIs. So these are the areas where ASEAN as well as the Korea can work and collaborate with the Indian pharmaceutical companies for the betterment of the trade, and also India known for providing efficacious drugs at very affordable price, particularly in the COVID scenario. This kind of alignment and this kind of a collaboration is going to help the industry. We have an advantage is that common technical document CTD. Uh, they can work with it will work with all the ASEAN countries. They once it is registered in any one of the countries, they can export to all the countries of ASEAN. And if you see in ASEAN, Vietnam and the Indonesia and three four countries particularly, they're doing well, and our exports are also doing well. And at the same time, I'm very much thankful to Mr. Madan Mohan Reddy. He is representing one of the top global companies, and they are known for their the API manufacturing as well as the formulations. So most of their exports, most of their manufacturing formulations are being exported. It is one of the top global companies, and so his presence definitely is going to help the member companies, and particularly he's going to act as a bridge between ASEAN and particularly the Indian pharmaceutical industry in the days to come. So once again, I'm very much thankful to my good friend, Mr. Rajiv Nath. He's the forum coordinator of AIMED. So I'm thankful to Mr. Sushant Mahapatra. So he put everything in a one basket, that is in medical devices, vaccines, testing, pharma, API, and he also successful in making the Professor Jung, President and CEO, to address on pharmaceutical. He's from the Pharmaceutical Strategical Institute, Korea. So definitely his inputs are going to be helpful. Once again, I wish the coming 3 days are going to be a very wonderful event, and it's going to update their knowledge, as well as it will have a good collaboration between ASEAN, Korea, and India. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Uday Bhaskar, for those warm words of welcome and for setting the tone for this virtual expo on pharma, healthcare, diagnostics, and hygiene. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have the privilege of joining us in the inaugural session, Mr. Surinder Bhagat, who is Deputy Chief of Mission, Embassy of India, Seoul. And today he's going to address on India-Korea relationship and opportunities in healthcare sector. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Surinder Bhagat. Kindly, we hand over to you for your address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Kim, President, Southwest Asia region, KOTRA, Mr. Uday Bhaskar, DG PHARMEXCIL, Mr. Madan Mohan Reddy, Director Aurobindo Pharma, our other distinguished colleagues from KOTRA, PHARMEXCIL, and Association of Indian Medical Device Industry, friends from Korea and Indian business community members. Namaskar and Annyeonghaseyo. I, on behalf of Embassy of India, would like to welcome you all to this webinar and virtual expo. I would also like to extend greetings of the upcoming Chuseok festivities to our Korean friends who have joined us for this event. This is the third event focusing on pharma sector, which is being organized in collaboration, in cooperation with the Embassy in the last 2 months alone, and this speaks the importance of this sector. Today's online event is part of our efforts to bring our pharma and diagnostic companies together through this virtual platform, which will facilitate interaction, collaboration, and exchange of information between the companies of our two countries. The COVID-19 crisis, which Mr. Uday Bhaskar just referred to, it's a crisis which also brings a lot of opportunities within its fold, and it is up to the two countries to leverage our respective strengths and work together jointly to create a healthy society for our people. Now, just to give you a brief background to audience who have joined us for the first time, the Indian pharma industry is one of the largest in the world, ranking third in terms of volume and 13th in terms of value in global pharmaceutical market. The total size of the pharma industry, including drugs and medical devices in India, is around $43 billion. India has one of the lowest manufacturing costs in the world, even lower than that of US and Europe. It is perhaps due to this high quality and competitive price that Indian medicines are preferred worldwide, and perhaps is also the reason why India is sometimes described as the pharmacy of the world. Indian pharma products are exported to over 190 countries, including the highly regulated markets of the US, West Europe, Japan, and Australia. India is amongst the global leaders in providing quality generics to the world, accounting for over 20% of global share. Now, amidst this global coronavirus pandemic, developing treatments and vaccines for the virus is both time-consuming and capital-intensive endeavor. I'm happy to inform you that India is at the forefront of research on vaccine for COVID-19. And India is also likely to play a critical role in making the vaccine accessible, affordable, and available to the rest of the world. In fact, there was a surge in demand for COVID-19 related drugs. India has risen to the occasion and sent essential drugs, testing kits, and other medical assistance to many countries around the world, including US, Italy, Kuwait, etc., to help in combating the spread of the virus. The COVID-19 challenge requires a collaborative approach between partner countries. India and ROK can overcome these challenges by working together to create new opportunities for our businesses and industries. The Government of India has created a conducive environment which fosters an ecosystem for such collaborations, joint ventures to take off. India has launched Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, or Self-Reliant India campaign, which is the new guiding philosophy for us. Self-reliance is not about seeking self-centered arrangements or economic isolationism. It aims to ensure India's position as a key participant in global supply chains. Under this initiative, India has rolled out a stimulus package for the economy of about $270 billion, which is close to 10% of our GDP. The stimulus package is a mix of fiscal and monetary support, injection of liquidity in the market, financial support for the industry, measures to improve ease of doing business, and key structural reforms. Just to dwell a bit on some of the reforms which have been introduced in India in the recent past, especially in the health sector. The government has earlier launched Ayushman Bharat, which is one of the world's largest health insurance initiatives. The Prime Minister of India has recently launched the National Digital Health Mission with the aim of providing efficient and affordable healthcare to our people through digital tools. When the pandemic started, India's capacity to produce critical COVID-19 equipment and items such as N95 masks, PPE kits, ventilators, etc. was limited. Rising to the occasion, our companies ramped up production of these essential items, and I'm happy to say at this platform that we are now able to export these items, which were in short supply at the beginning of the crisis. With an annual growth of over 22%, the healthcare sector in India has become very, very promising for investments and joint ventures. In pharma sector in India, as you perhaps may be aware, FDI is permitted up to 100% in greenfield projects and up to 74% in brownfield projects under automatic route. In order to retain India's position as world leader in pharmaceuticals, the government of India has undertaken some initiatives like environmental clearances to be granted expeditiously through projects related to active pharmaceutical ingredients and bulk drug intermediaries. Export policy for some APIs have been amended to make it restriction-free. We are also confident that the innovative spirit of Korean industry will find a suitable match in the form of a large pool of skilled human resources, world-class manufacturing capabilities, and economies of scale that India offers in medical devices sector. Diagnostic imaging, surgical devices, consumables, in vitro diagnostics, and medical aids make major share of Indian medical device market. Over 60% of the manufacturers are mostly domestic players operating in the consumables segment and catering to local consumption with a lot of export potential. The Korean companies looking for investments in India should also take into account factors such as stable polity in the country, domestic demand, external market, especially in the South Asian region, favorable policies for domestic production, cost competitive, trained and skilled manpower, IPR protection, and most importantly, reliable business environment. Friends, the objective of this interaction is to bring to your attention these aspects of Indian pharma, diagnostic and medical devices sector, and to invite you to explore India and the numerous opportunities it has to offer. I hope you will find this virtual expo, especially the B2B segment, useful to understand the pharma industry in India better, and also assist in forming joint ventures, collaborations with prospective Indian partners. I look forward to the deliberations of this event, and I wish you all the very best. Stay safe. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Bhagat, for that wonderful address. And we are certain that the India-Korea relationship will open up immense opportunities in the healthcare sector. Thank you very much indeed for your participation in your address. And moving on, we have the privilege in requesting Mr. Madan Mohan Reddy, whole-time director, Aurobindo Pharma, to kindly address all our participants on the topic of finished dosage formulations and API industry, international cooperation, and strengthening collaborations. Over to you, Mr. Madan Mohan Reddy.
Thank you, Sapna. Respected Mr. Surinder Bhagat, Deputy Chief of Mission, Embassy of India, Seoul, Mr. Kim, Mr. Nath, Mr. Udaya Bhaskar, and participants. Good morning to everyone. India is the fourth largest formulation exported by volume and 10th largest by value in the world. Yes, Indian pharmaceutical industry is largely dominated by generic drugs, as the industry earns around 70% of the revenues from the same. Indian pharmaceutical exports revenues was around $19.13 billion in the year 2019. The reason 7.5% is then in the year 2020, we reached around $20.5 billion exports from India. Even during adverse impact of COVID 2019 during the month of March 2020. Always India used to think like there is a market like regulatory and emerging market. There are two segments used to think in the beginning when we started 2 decades back. But slowly when we started doing this business in the regulatory market, most of the companies concentrating on regulatory market because everyone feels that this is the market where there are opportunities and then there is a huge price in the price and then everything is going to be a lot of benefit from this regulatory market where every industry started concentrating on the regulatory market. Last 2 decades, we expertise in that filing so many drug master files, ANDAs, start doing business in US market as well as in Europe market. During this journey, we visualized there is a huge opportunity in this emerging market. Even though we call it as an emerging market, we should not call, actually there is no any regulatory or emerging market in terms of regulations. Always we see in this regulatory market, there is an US FDA approval, Europe approval. This is what is the pre-qualification to do the business in these countries. When we visualized, then started thinking last 1 decade, any emerging market, especially in Asian countries, if we want to enter into this any country where there is a pre-qualification of this dossier, so that dossier at least pre-qualification must be at least some regulatory approvals must be there for those industry. That is where we started looking into that. This is an opportunity for us to enter into the emerging market where everyone started looking into this. There is an opportunity for this. When India, if you see that is the highest filings, DMF filings from India, if you compare to anywhere in the world, this itself it shows what is that our technological background, where we are able to meet whatever the requirements in the world, we can able to do that and then take care of this business opportunities. Then go forward, the dossiers, formulation dossiers. Whenever you file this in this emerging market, whatever the bioequivalence study is required, we are having the entire infrastructure where we can start filing. Then easily we can get an approval. We can enter into this business where there is a $16 billion opportunity is there from the Asian market. Today we are only at 6 to 6.5%. We are able to do an exports from this India to Asian countries, where especially this is an opportunity for the Indian manufacturers looking to that, having a lot of joint ventures, lot of understanding, synergy is required now to enter into the Asian market. Especially we should thankful to the government. Government is giving a lot of support to the industry through councils like PHARMEXCIL. Mr. Udaya Bhaskar is working 24 hours actually only on this to support industry, ensure that there must be opportunities to step in so that it is going to be taken care by the government. And then industry is also thinking towards to that entry into this emerging market. Go forward this today, especially this Asian market, there is 3 countries actually, Philippines, Vietnam, Myanmar is the Thailand, is listed among the top 20 countries of the India exports of the pharmaceuticals. The generic market, especially in the Asian market where if you want to really step in, especially is required a lot of support from these ambassadors, especially they are also participating to ensure that this Indian industry must be able to go very quickly and then we are able to quickly achieve whatever that is expectations. I think this platform is going to help industry to make sure it is going to be strengthen our relationship with this for export side. And then especially Asian countries, we are closely thinking and then putting our efforts to see that it's going to be helpful to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. That was a wonderful address and very informative by Mr. Madan Mohan Reddy. And now moving on to the next address, which is by Mr. M.Y. Kim. He is President KOTRA Southwest Asia, and he's going to address on South Korea's success story of COVID containment through innovation in healthcare. Moving on, we hand over to Mr. M.Y. Kim. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Satma Gupta. Okay. Thank you so much, especially to Udaya Bhaskar, Director General PHARMEXCIL, Mr. Surinder Bhagat, Deputy Chief at Indian Embassy in South Korea, Mr. Mohan Reddy, Director of Aurobindo Pharma, Ms. Rajiv Nath, Forum Coordinator, and other guests and guests.
Mr. Kim, your voice is not clear.
Okay.
Can you please bring the mic near to your, hello?
Okay, yeah, how about this one? It's okay.
Yeah, it's better, sir.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, South Korea is recognized as one of the most successful countries to have contained and overcome the COVID-19 without a nationwide lockdown until now. South Korea is suggested with minus 1% economic growth this year, and it's the highest number among 24 OECD countries. President Mr. Moon's strong initiative, cooperation of the people, and Korea's world-class IT infrastructure like safety system are quoted as the main reasons. Korea's nanobiosensor tracking system was adopted as the international standard by ISO on 9th this month. And the number of the countries and agencies seeking cooperation with Korea is in sharp upward trend. South Korea has become world top 6th exporting country, and its per capita income is over 30,000 US dollar, and its GDP is around 1.6 trillion US dollar. And Korea's IT infrastructure has reached world class. However, Korea's per capita income was just below 100 US dollar, lower than India 50 years ago. I think Korea's success case over COVID-19 this time is representing Korea's rapid economic and social development process over the last 50 years. Korean people and the government had developed Pali, or in Hindi, Jaldi culture, to survive under unexpectedly changing international economic situation. And I think this Jaldi culture has also applied to Korea's approach to COVID-19 also. Korea's healthcare, medical device industries, and the companies have shown that they are already in world top class levels. As explained by Mr. Bhagat, and they are preparing another big jump in the coming years with the new vaccines, medicines, test kits, and medical equipment. I think COVID-19 is also presenting a big opportunity to India and the Indian industries. 90,000 is a daily new number is big. However, I expect this number will be in sharp decrease from next month, or will be under manageable situation by Indian government. In my personal opinion, any human being could not have prevented COVID-19 pandemic under current economic, hygienic, and living condition of our capital-oriented world. Even the new number in South Korea is in increasing trend now. The transparency and credibility shown by Indian government has given different dimension and credit to outside world compared to another big neighboring country. India, which is producing around 20% of the world medicine, will be the top country to deliver tremendous vaccines, medicines to outside world. In this sense, both India and Korea have a very huge room and opportunity to go hand in hand and to cooperate each other. I wish today's program will be a turning point to expand cooperation between both countries, businessmen and the government in this sector. I want to express deep appreciation to the organizer, Mr. Santa Matatra, my 20-year-long friend, and many VVIPs and guests once again. Both धन्यवाद.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for your participation in this webinar. And certainly it's a well-known fact that the country has shown early success across all three phases of the epidemic control, be it response framework, detection, or containment. And certainly there's a lot to be learned from Korea's success story as far as COVID is concerned. Thank you once again for your participation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite Mr. Rajiv Nath, who's the Forum Coordinator, Association of Indian Manufacturers of Medical Devices, and who's going to speak on medical devices, the next big story after IT and pharma. So over to you, sir, Mr. Rajiv Nath.
Thank you, Ms. Sapna. Is it possible that you can enable me to use my shared screen? I'd like to make a brief
I'm sure, sir. Sir, we can do that. So can we, may I request Mr. Rajiv Nath to kindly share his screen for the presentation? So you have a presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
It's still disabled. Yes, I can see it now.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Done. Okay, over to you, sir. You can carry on.
Is it visible to everybody? Can you see it all?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Very warm welcome to everyone, and I thank you, Mr. Mahapatra, for organizing this event, and KOTRA for partnering with the Indian associations for making this event to be a success. And definitely, we do think that after IT and pharma, medical device is the next big opportunity and a great investment opportunity of more than $10 billion, where we look forward to Korea being a partner with us. About IMET, we've got more than 350 primary members who are manufacturers. We also have more than 200 stakeholder members who are critical suppliers or consultants who work along with us to make manufacturing in India to be a rewarding experience for medical devices. So, of course, COVID has been very bad for the economies of the world, including India, but medical devices is one area which is seemingly like a silver lining, where definitely there have been some very interesting achievements which I'll be talking about. So IMED interfaces with the various government departments and has been the focal point since the crisis started to make sure that India is self-dependent on all these products. In medical devices, there are 7 verticals. We've got disposables, consumables, electronics, and equipments. And these are some of the market leaders in these product lines, whether they make syringes or they make disposable electrodes or catheters or equipments like ventilators or X-ray machines or incubators. And then we are also very strong in the implants, whether it is the coronary stent implants, or you've got the intraocular lens, or you have the orthopedic implants. And then in diagnostics, again, India, though may be importing many products, at the same time, we are also manufacturing and exporting. And we've created our own MNCs in India, like Transasia, Trivitron, and Merrill. And they've done very well also in the space of the COVID diagnostics. In surgical instruments, again, India has got some market leaders in surgical blades like HMD and suture needles like quality needles, and then also in endoscopy or arthroscopy instruments. In exports, we have had a steady growth rate. So even though India is importing nearly $5.7 billion worth of goods, and we are 85% import dependent, the export story is definitely more positive, where we've got more than $2.15 billion of exports, growing at about 10 to 15% at a steady growth rate. So in terms of achievements for Make in India, India has done some very interesting initiatives in the last 5-7 years. So we've got the Kalam Institute of Healthcare Technology, which was established in Visakhapatnam. And this particular institute helps to commercialize various technologies that have been initiated in the IITs or the scientific institutes or the medical colleges of the country, plus supports various state governments in putting up medical device parks or commercializing technologies, and also hosts incubators like MediValley and BioValley. Quality Council of India introduced, along with IMED, the Indian certification for medical devices, and this provides credibility to Indian products in India and internationally. So the Korean companies who are looking at Indian partners, they can keep this in mind. Then we've got regulations in India, which are now being mapped and being aligned to the, I would say, USA and European and other leading countries in the world. So now all the medical devices with effect from 1st of April are created under the medical device rules, which were introduced in 2018-17. And to ensure ethical manufacturing and marketing and affordable access to medical products, the government had introduced price controls on stents and knee implants, which we from IMED fully support. Two medical device parks have been created in Visakhapatnam, Andhra Medtech Zone, and by Telangana government in Hyderabad. And going forward, there are more medical device parks coming up in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, in UP, in Haryana, and Himachal Pradesh. And then we've got the Indian Biomedical Skill Development Consortium, which has now graduated to become a council. And initially it was just mapping the skills of the biomedical engineers, and now it is also going to be training the biomedical engineers for higher skills. So that is something that, again, the Korean companies can keep in mind of access to skilled technicians and engineers in India, both for manufacturing, maintenance, or selling. And then we've taken initiatives for patient safety and for consumer protection. For COVID, when the crisis came, India was mainly import dependent, and with the coordinated movement of the government departments through IMED with various manufacturers from automotive, from textile, from garment industry, even from food and tourism, hospitality, who decided that their future is bleak and better to diversify into medical devices. So many companies have moved on to making these kind of products. So in PPE, before we had only 20 members in IMED, and now we've got more than 140 members listed with IMED. And production has gone up with just the IMED members alone from 6 million pieces per annum to more than 255 million pieces per annum. Similarly, for ventilators, until last year, there were hardly 8 manufacturers making hardly 3,400 ventilators per year. And currently, there are 17 to 18 manufacturers with a capacity of more than 440,000 ventilators per annum, with the highest being done in July of more than 40,000 ventilators in a month. In surgical masks, 3-ply masks, From 25 manufacturers, we got now more than 71 companies listed with IMET. There are more than 100 to 200 companies who are also going to be producing this product or already under the installation and commissioning. And the capacity has gone up from hardly 300 million pieces per annum to more than 3.3 billion pieces per annum. Similarly, for the N95 mask, the capacity has gone up from hardly 14 million pieces per annum from 5 manufacturers to more than 800 million pieces per annum from more than 37 manufacturers. In diagnostic kits, the gold standard is the RT-PCR kit. And in this, we were not making anything, of course, because COVID was a new disease. But now we've got 8 manufacturers producing nearly 1.5 billion pieces per annum of the test kits, both for India and for the international world. And the sample collection tubes, India was completely import dependent for the VTM tubes. Now we got more than 10 manufacturers making nearly 4 billion pieces of this every year. And similarly, we've done well for the RNA extraction kits and the rapid diagnostic kits. So this is what I would like to convey to my friends in Korea, Mr. Kim from KOTRA and Mr. Bhagat from the embassy. What we are reckoning is that for this $15 billion medtech market, there's a $10 billion plus investment opportunity. And we are targeting most countries in the world have medical devices made by small, medium companies, also in Korea. So we reckon that these Korean companies cannot have joint ventures or sometimes FDIs come independently in India. But they have the know-how, they have the technology, they can make technical collaborations with Indian companies. So we are targeting 1,200 such collaborations of $5 million size each to create a $6 billion value. And we hope that Korea can be a big part of this 1,200 technical collaborations. Maybe at least 200 to 400 collaborations is something I have in mind. In terms of if the Koreans are having more confidence and they feel that they would like to invest, we welcome them to have joint ventures and invest their equity as partners. And for this, we are targeting around 200 ventures with about $10 million investment each to create a $2 billion value in the country. And you can be assured of good partnerships from Indian companies who are known to be fair business people. And then for the large corporates in Korea who want to have their own factories and their own subsidiaries in India, like you've done for Samsung for mobile phones, you're welcome to use the PLI scheme from the Government of India or the Medical Device Park scheme recently launched by Government of India and do your own direct investments. And for this, we are targeting about 50 companies worldwide with about $40 million investment each to create a $2 billion value. So this is something which is very much feasible, very much doable. And we've had similar discussions with Taiwan, with Israel, with Japan. And I think with Korea, there's a natural affinity. My own company, Hindustan Syringes and Medical Devices, has got many good friends in Korea. We've started our journey for making syringes and needles with Korean molds, Korean assembly machines, Korean needle making technology. And of course, now we have also Japanese and German and Swiss technologies coexisting with all this. But I know for a fact how hard the Koreans work and the reliance and dependability of Korean business people that we enjoy with working with. So it's something that we look forward to working. And in terms of quality, I know that Korea and the Korean medical authorities have got a very strong regulatory system. So you can be assured that India is following your footsteps and going forward like a media. India will also be having its own separate medical device law going forward to transfer the rules which are already there now, which will be aligned to the Western world and to what Korea and other countries have done of regulating through third-party certification professionally. So let us jointly make the products in India and realize a vision to be one of the leading countries in the world with our low-cost manufacturing base over here. We don't intend to compete with Korea, we intend to collaborate with Korea. So please feel to reach out to the various manufacturers, and you can always contact me anytime, Mr. Kim, and I'll forward the presentation to you to pass on to your membership. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are done with the addresses in the inaugural session. And after this, we will be straight away moving on to the presentations on business opportunities for Indian pharmaceuticals and APIs in ASEAN countries. And of course, we do agree with Mr. Rajiv Nath that we are not competing, but would like to collaborate with other countries in promoting our Make in India endeavor, which is, of course, our Honorable Prime Minister's vision for the future. And certainly the medical devices sector has grown considerably and plays a very, very important role in the healthcare sector. And India is fast growing in this sector of medical devices. And before we move on to the presentations, I would request Mr. Susanta Mahapatra to kindly close the inaugural session with proposing the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, and am I audible to you? Yes. Good morning and namaskar. Welcome everybody. Your Excellency, Mr. Bhagat, Mr. Kim, Mr. Udaya Bhaskar, Mr. Rajiv Nath, Mr. Reddy, Professor Jung, Mr. Munish Gupta. Thank you for joining. This initiative, already introduced by Sapna Gupta, is a response to the clarion call by Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi, like turning the crisis into an opportunity, and how Indian entrepreneurs and the innovators have turned the crisis into an opportunity. And this exposition and the virtual expo has tried its best to showcase in terms of exhibitors and in terms of seminars as well. And our exhibitors represents all categories of verticals, like pharmaceuticals. We have very good companies like Mr. Reddy from Aurobindo is there. It's one of the largest API manufacturers in the world. They are here in our exhibition. There are several API companies and formulation companies in our expo. And in medical devices as well, Mr. Rajiv Nath, he is the managing director of HMD. And Thermo Fisher is one of the best known international brand from USA, is also present in our exhibition. So having on the top echelons of the industry, and also we are trying to promote the startups. We have partnered with Bangalore Bio Innovation Center and startup councils. We have tried to get the representation of startups. We have nearly 7 to 8 startups to represent in this virtual expo. They have very good startup in this expo. And our main focus of this exhibition is, like Mr. Udaya Bhaskar said rightly, the high octane sessions, the vaccine sessions. There are 3 indigenous vaccine manufacturers or developers from Bharat Biotech, which is supported by Indian Council of Medical Research, and Biological E, which which has a tie-up with Johnson & Johnson and Zydus Cadila. So these three companies, they are participating in our vaccine session. And today in the afternoon, we have a diagnostic sessions. In the diagnostic session, also we have very leading speakers. And in the late, immediately after the inaugural session, we have a medical device session where Mr. Rajiv Nath also will be talking about international collaboration in medical devices with leading speakers from medical device industry. And following day, we have bio-pharma manufacturing from India as well as from overseas. So this is all. I would like to thank everybody. And again, over to Sapna, and let us welcome Professor Jung and Mr. Munish Gupta. And thank you, everybody. Namaskar.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. And thank you once again for those lovely words in your vote of thanks, and also for taking us through the agenda of this virtual event, this expo we are having on pharma, healthcare, and diagnostics and hygiene. So as Mr. Santa Mahapatra said, we are moving on with the presentations, and the topic is business opportunities for Indian pharmaceuticals and APIs in ASEAN countries. And for the first presentation, we welcome Professor Jung Taek, who's President and CEO, Pharmaceutical Strategical Institute, Korea. A very warm welcome to you, sir, and over to you, sir, for your presentation. Let's welcome Mr. Professor Jung.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jung Taek. I am in Korea. So my company is Pharmaceutical Strategy Institute. First of all, thank you for inviting to the seminar. My topic is the Korean pharmaceutical industry, current and the future. Finally, is how can I approach collaboration in the Korea and the India? My content is the first one is the Korean pharmaceutical industry history, and the second is the base of the statistics that overall is the Korean pharmaceutical industry, and then it's the Korean pharmaceutical industry governance. To how can I structure for in the government the structure. And finally, it's the Korean-India cooperation in the pharmaceutical industry. So Korean is the 120 years story. Is the nowadays globalization. First one started is the 1819. Is first is the Donghwa. That the trademark is the 할명수. Beginning in the 60 and 70 is the finished product and the raw material. Is the collaboration with the multinational company with the joint ventures. 1980 that is the introduced KGMP and API and introduced that universal national health insurance systems. 1990, that is the introduced Korea for product patent system, and then with the new regulation in the GLP and the GCP. Now there is a fully scale new drug development and global new drug development now. Especially that is the first one in the Korean new drug approval is the 2003. And it's the 2007 that in the FDA settlement in the United States. The briefly summary, that is the market size about 22. Now that currently is the $22 billion, and 30 new drug is the approved in the Korea, and that is potentially is the biological, is especially stem cell or biosimilar. And so many, a lot of more money to the government that support. And the clinical trial is the very comfortability because the Seoul is the worldwide ranking 1. And the national basis 6 or 7 ranking in the world. And the high world class is GMP. Globalization in the Korea is that the 2014 is the PICS join, and 2016 ICH members. So it's the new drugs that every year is the new 2 or 3 is the approval in the Korea. I mentioned it, the clinical trial that the Seoul ranking 1 in the world, in the city basis. Especially on this detail, the Korea is that the collaboration with the multinational company is the especially so many company is the joint venture and the technical transfer, that is the know-how is the keeping and the great growth. Then in the nowadays the United States and the EMA is the approval biosimilar and the new drug is the that the global regulatory authorities the approval is the biosimilar and the new drug now. I mentioned it that the slides, the emerging market, the especially expansion of the reason 1 is the aging population increase, and the second is the healthcare reform. Also in the Korea is the 1977, the first time to introduce the national health insurance, and so finally achieved that the universal coverage 1989. So that the market size, pharma market size is the increasing that 77 and to the $2.7 billion is the expansion of the pharmaceutical market. So it's the Korean pharmaceutical is the industry is very important things. The first one is the healthcare cutting reason that the new drug, IMD incremental modified drug, and the biosimilar is the low cost. So cutting the reducing the total healthcare cost. Second is that the public health the influenza vaccine that is the 2009 the vaccine rate. So we are that is the past of that the influenza impact in the world of pandemic. Nowadays, I check out the statistics basis introduced to Korean market. Korean market is the 2018 that is now that about $21 billion is in the market. Especially the Korean market is the export is every year is very expensive because the main reason one the Celltrion and the Samsung Biologics the sale in the world about the biosimilar. As you know, it's the first mover in the biosimilar, so that the effective exports very expanded. That is the Korean sales structures. That is the ETC, OTC. Mainly is the ETC. It's the mainly 80%. And the Korean, the Finnish, that the company, Finnish manufacturing company is that 261, and the Berk, and the API company is 137. That is the Finnish product company rankings. Maybe it's like to India, the multinational companies, the high ranking, but in the Korea also Hanmi, Daewoo, CJ Iltong, the JW, Green Cross, Dongha, Yuhan. That is the high ranking in the Korean market. Also, it's the Korean government that the innovative company designation that is so very potential of that R&D. Many of the R&D investments and good human research to end then in the good business model and for globalization. The Korean the minister, especially is the health ministry, minister that is the designation in the 44 company. We call the innovative company. It will be, I think that it will be good partner in the India. It's a very creative company. And then in the 20 sales therapeutics, the first one, cholesterol and angiotensin and the antagonist, that is the second. So many is the chronic disease, the high ranking in the top therapeutics category. And the expert country partners, the India is the ranking 10, the Korean export that to India. So the raw materials, the API, special API, and that is the finished products, the 10 ranking the partner. That is the Korean ranking, but that the import, the many, India is the 9 rankings, so many APIs that every year is a little bit increasing, and that the finished product little, but is the so many is the API imported from India. So it's the ranking partner is the 9. This is the Korean pharmaceutical industry focus on the new drug developments. So the Korean company licensed out this for multinational company. In Asia, that is the license out is the number and the price volume. That is the China ranking 1 is the 6-7, the license out. But the only to Korean is the 19 license out for the another country. But its volume is the top level. So Korean is that is a very potential of the good high quality. Is the global standard of new technology approach to that. So the license out is another country. That is the in Asia, the top 8, the company big deal. So Korean companies, among the 5 companies, the big deal, rather is the multinational company license out is the Yuhan, and the licensing is the LG, it's the Int'l and the Koron and the ABL. That company is the big deal and the big license out to another companies. The Korean is the R&D, so pipeline is the it's like to global R&D pipeline, the therapeutics. So many is cancer, antibiotic, and antiviral is the many focus on the new R&D development. This slide is the Korean pharmaceutical policy, the public healthcare policy, industry policy, and the public health. That's the government side, the Minister of Health and the Science and the Mr. Harris in and the industry. The main is the industry support, and the public health is like the drug registration that is the Minister of Food and Drug Safety. That is the public organization, the industry policy, and the support to the kidney, cats, that, and the private organizations, the doctor association, nurse association, pharmacy association, and the public organization in the KPMA and the KOTRA and the KO Bio. That is the many support the government and the private side. That the government is the three sides of that, the separation of the support. Science is mainly the 3 and the 4, and the Minister of Health is that the 5 is focusing the clinical trial and the development, and the industry, that Department of Industry, Minister of Industry, that is that also in the clinical trial and the development. The Korean is that make the 5 years the planning by the Pharmaceutical Industry Development Act. The base is the world of the world reading ranking 7 pharmaceutical country. That is the 5 laws, is the 30 plans, the R&D, and the investor loan, and the training of sales extension infrastructure. So that is that the roadmap obviously is that the penetration drug type. It's the innovative new drugs that the first one is the United States and the Europe, and the second is that China and the Pharmaceutical country. Generic biosimilar is Pharmaceutical country, EU and the United States. Vaccine is the WHO PQ, or another is the developing countries. Also approaches the United States and Europe. API is Japan and the United States, Europe, the CMO business, and Japan, the United States. This is the plan of that the goal, and it's the roadmap. Last slide is in the Korean, that is the price and the regulation size. Price is every year cut down. So as you know, it's the Korean population is aging, is very increasing. So is every year the government is cut down the drug prices. Also, that the regulation is strongly that it's like the API, the DMF, the GMF to API, and the CTD, and the fixed GMP, and especially is focused on the patent linkage. It's like the United States works on the Act. I'm is the proposal. How can I collaboration in the India, in the pharmaceutical industry? I think the Korean issue is the high medical expenditure, the aging population, the chronic disease is increasing, and the second is the efficient domestic API production. So is the important the dependence. So effective that the generic biosimilar need because induced that the medical expenditure, and it is needed to high quality, high demanded API. That is a main solution is the API issues. That is the patent linkage. So it's needed the very detailed of that analysis of the patents. It's like that we will try to United States market. First one is the orange books, the patent list. It's like also very similar to is the Korean systems. And then now the Korean is the biotech startups every year so many of the startup making 400 to 700 every years, because the Korean big industries in the future is the automobile and semiconductor, and the last is that the biohealth. So it's the big three industry. So Korean government so many of support and so many of money to that industry. So so that so many is the start of the bioventure. As you know, bioventure is needed to mass production of for launch. So it's not the manufacturing. So I think that is the Korean biotech collaboration with the India company and our joint venture R&D at it's like the same business. It's like it's a good collaboration. That is objective that that is the healthcare cut down and the general biosimilar is the achievement, and the biotech and with the collaboration is the will be is the quantum jump. So India Pharmaceutical in the enhanced capacity and expansion of the expert, I think. It is one of the solutions that G2B, B2B, G2C collaboration in partnership. That every year is held in the Seoul. Is that next year, 2021 in the Seoul. So many is the biotech company and a big company, and so it can be collaboration many of you. So it will be very helpful is the collaboration in the Korea. It is the India company. It is very helpful to is that solve the solution. I think that it's a good opportunity. So I am recommended to attend that is the Korea Palm and the Bio is the next year. Thank you. Thank you, my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, sir. That indeed was a very informative presentation we had from you. Thank you once again for your participation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the next presentation we have is by Mr. Munish Gupta, who is Vice Chairman, Indian Business Chamber in Vietnam, INCHAM. Over to you, Mr. Munish Gupta. And a very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. My video is not on, so can you please check?
Can we just check for the video?
Yeah, it's on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay now.
Do you also have a presentation, sir?
No, I don't. I'm in quarantine. Unfortunately, I'm in a quarantine. Okay. I just joined to, ask Mr. Mahapatra informed that we have to join somebody. So I'm joining from quarantine. So I'm really sorry for not having any presentation.
Take care. Yeah, no worries. Take care. And we look forward to your address. Over to you.
Yeah. As the topic says, the Indian pharmaceuticals in ASEAN. As you all know that in ASEAN, not the manufacturing units are not enough. The countries, they are not very strong in pharmaceutical manufacturing. Especially if you go by the ASEAN country, only Vietnam have couple of manufacturing, Indonesia, as well as Thailand, and Philippines. Other than that, we do not have much manufacturing in ASEAN countries. So as far as the APIs are concerned, we have a huge potential of APIs in ASEAN countries. Especially if you look into these 4-5 countries who are having the manufacturing units, alone Vietnam have almost 135 to 150 manufacturing units. As well as the formulation, what all these ASEAN countries are importing from India is a huge business. Being one of the biggest pharmaceutical manufacturing hub of India, we are importing a lot of products into ASEAN countries. But whereas the manufacturing is concerned, we still have a lot of potential of having API business into ASEAN countries. Whereas we can have, we can use our sources to have the couple of production units in in the countries, because there's one more advantage of having a manufacturing of APIs or pharmaceuticals is the FTA. Within ASEAN countries, there are no import duties. There are a couple of FTAs within the countries. So that would be a big opportunity for companies if they are coming and opting for having the manufacturing units in ASEAN countries. Especially Vietnam, the infrastructure is so well. I'm in Vietnam for almost like 15 years of now. And the manufacturing setups are so good, and the facilities and infrastructure is so good that people can have the manufacturing here, as well as at the same time can be exported from here. Already couple of manufacturing units, they're exporting to Myanmar. Couple of them are doing in Cambodia, Africa, as well as some are exporting to Philippines. It's already started. So it's the high time for us as Indian pharmaceutical to come up and using some of our, uh, manufacturing specialty to use in these countries. And one more thing which a couple of Indian companies are doing is the tech transfer. A lot of companies, they are doing the tech transfer because the specialty in these countries is not that good as compared to India, because we are into business for a long time. And being a pioneer, we have this much of capabilities in our many of the manufacturers that they can start using the tech transfers and having the presence in Vietnam. And as a different governance, not much data is available from this country. But what I know is, being a pharmaceutical in pharmaceutical business, there are a lot of scope in devices, medical devices and others as well, because not big manufacturing is happening here. Most of the time it is imported through some smaller companies from China, or it's coming from Korea, it's coming from India, coming from some part of the Europe, but not as a medical device hub. It's not as projected as of now. So what I feel is, as in total ASEAN, we have a huge scope of business from India, in terms of exports, in terms of manufacturing units to be started in these countries. If any one of you wants to know some specific thing, you can please ask me, because I do not carrying any of the presentation. So from my side, I think it's done. Thank you very much for inviting me for this.
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed, sir. And of course, I'm sure the organizers would be sharing your contact details, but if, for our participants to get in touch with you.
Sure.
And
Thank you
on
very
that
much.
note, yeah, thank you so much. And I would now once again invite Mr. Susanta Mahapatra to thank both our eminent and very prestigious speakers we had, Professor Jung and Mr. Manish Gupta. Over to you, Mr. Susanta.
Professor Jung, are you there? Professor Jung, are you there? Anyway, maybe he's not there. So it was a privilege to have Professor Jung, who has got very rich experience of working in Korea health industry, and now he is president CEO of Korea Pharmaceutical Strategy Institute, and he has given very informative presentation about Korean pharma industry, and he rightly informed that Korea is a aging society which requires very specific and unique type of drugs, and India can be a very good partner in that supply source of drugs, and India is already emerging as a API supplier, because I myself has a long association with organizing pharma and bio events in Korea and Southeast Asia. So I have been doing this, and a lot of Indian pharma and bio companies have been doing great business in Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia. And coming back to Mr. Munish Gupta, thank you very much for your valuable time that even in quarantine that you have joined, and I'm really sorry because I wrote to INCHAM. So, and thank you very much for sharing. And I really like to understand what type of drug or pharmaceuticals, because I understand that Southeast Asia has some Oriental medicines, and which has some synergy with Indian Ayurveda, and which India can complement as a sourcing destination.
Mr. Mahapatra, thank you very much for asking me this thing. See, Oriental medicine is very prevalent in all across ASEAN.
Yes.
And it is more or less same as what we call Ayurveda, or what we are promoting as Ayush ministry now. The point is they also have their domestic production of many homemade, or you can say Ayurvedic medicines. Yes, and these countries, they are highly influential with China, if you really look into the Ayurveda or the Oriental medicine. So they have this thing, but only point comes in when we talk about the marketing of these things. Every country have a different regulation in marketing. For example, if I talk about Vietnam, the very specific doctors can prescribe this. It has to be done through OTC or through the small segment of the doctors. Right. Once you go to the OTC, then it all depends on what kind of infrastructure of distribution or other channels you have. So in that, the local companies have the little more advantage than as a foreigners. As of now, not much acceptance of Indian herbal, you can say, or the Indian cosmetics for sake. It's not much accepted in these markets, because normally for herbal, because there is no WHO GMP. So these products, they can't participate in the local tenders.
Yes.
So then it comes the for business purpose, that comes the volume. So it's so less volume as a private doctors or the smaller pharmacies, because the in that tenders system, there is no company which is not WHO GMP approved. They cannot participate. And for Ayurveda in India, we don't, because it doesn't come under WHO GMP. So that's the little more reason. But yes, there are a couple of companies who are doing the smaller business. They got the registrations, and then they do just some small businesses. Other countries, if I'm not wrong, in Cambodia, you can do, doctors can prescribe food supplements as well as Ayurvedic both. So those there are a couple. I'm not well versed with the other part of the ASEAN, but very few countries where the open prescription is there. There the business can be done. But as far as the little closer countries like Vietnam, or I'm not much about Philippines, but yes, Vietnam especially, we cannot have the bigger business in terms of, like, yes, if you invest, if somebody really wants to invest in marketing promotion, yes, it can be done in a bigger way, in a larger way.
Okay.
But yes, what you said is correct. The market is big. Market is big. We can explore. As of now, by 2020, Vietnam expected the whole pharmaceutical market to be around $8 billion US. Maybe it has dropped because of this COVID thing, but I'm sure it must have reached around 7 billion for sure, 7.5. So market is big. In ASEAN, this is the biggest market available. So we really have a lot of things to explore in Vietnam, especially as a pharmaceutical manufacturing units, because as of now, there is no Indian company who have a manufacturing in Vietnam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your inputs. And about the formulation and API business. So what is your advice to the Indian pharma and API companies?
Mr. Mabatra, formulation, there's a big business is happening already. I think
Yes.
Mr. Bhaskar is aware about that already. But yes, API, there are very specific companies who are doing business because of the specific regulations. Because at the time of presenting the dossier to the Ministry of Health, you have to produce the dossier of APIs as well. So if you miss that time of registration, you cannot enter again. Right. So in that terms, you have to be very precise at the time of dossier, and you have to have the if you are doing directly with the local manufacturers, so it has to be very much in time with the dossier submission, so that your company, API company or API product has to be go with the dossier. Because once the product is registered with the two APIs companies, then third cannot be entered. So API has a huge scope. There are a couple of companies who are already into APIs, and they are doing it in Vietnam because as a manufacturing, it's again one of the biggest in ASEAN, because we have around 130, 135 WHO and US FDA as well as UGMP approved companies altogether. So it's one of the big market, and we can explore in terms of APIs as well.
Right. So most of the Indian companies are WHO GMP approved. But what I understand is the regulatory requirement in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Asian countries are not that stringent like Korea, Japan. Is it right, sir?
You are correct if you compare with Korea and Japan. But in ASEAN, the most stringent is Vietnam. Yeah, because Indonesia have a different setup altogether. You have to have a subsidiary there to import the products. But for Vietnam, this is the most stringent now. Easier to this is Philippines. More easier to that is Myanmar, and after that other countries. Yes, Malaysia as well. Malaysia and Thailand. They are the stringent, most stringent for sure. But as in these developing within ASEAN also, these developing countries, Vietnam has the most stringent dossiers as of now, whether it's API or formulation.
And Vietnam is a great destination for food and nutraceutical products.
Yes,
Food
it
in
has
food ingredient. I mean food.
food ingredients as well as food supplements also. If you talk
Yes.
about if one of the part of pharmaceutical is food supplements, but
Yes.
unfortunately the food supplement, we as an Indian market, we haven't made any big impact in the market as food supplements. Still, food supplements are more acceptable from Thailand, Australia, US, and couple of Europe countries. Indian supplements are not much accepted here.
Okay. And Vietnam is now divided between two societies emerging, Vietnam, a lot of investment which are being diverted from China to Vietnam.
Yeah,
Like,
a lot, and we have even already heard as well as we have read also. There are a couple of
yes,
Japanese investors who have moved from China to Vietnam,
yes, yeah.
and many others are planning also to move to either Vietnam or to India. We haven't heard much in India, but yes, I'm sure once the infrastructure is given, many companies they would also go to India and invest there.
So you have anything to say about that?
Nothing much. I think because there's a difference of governance in India as well as in Vietnam. It's a two different countries. A lot of similarities, a lot of differences, but India is too large to compare with with any part with any country. being for many other reasons. But yes, I'm sure the way things are moving, India would also have a lot of investments which is coming from other part of the world other than China.
Right. So the investor community which are coming to Vietnam, so I am sure those people would be requiring a lot of pharmaceuticals or other things from India as well, like local population who may be resisting Indian pharma or Ayurveda or Ayush products, but the investors community may be interested. So
Uh, See, we haven't heard of any new investment in pharmaceutical as of now. Whatever investments are there, they are the old one. There is no Indian pharmaceutical company who is present here as a manufacturer. There are a lot of trading companies, a lot of other manufacturers who have offices here who imports but made in India. Similarly, the other countries, but there are a couple of MNCs who have presence here, who have the manufacturing units here. They have a couple of benefits being a local investment in the local tenders. But as a Indian manufacturer, there is no company who has invested here for last at least 15, 16 years. A long back, Renbaxi have, but they have some repackaging unit here. But that was long back in early 2000. Other than that, there is no manufacturing unit is here.
thank you very much, sir, for sharing your knowledge. And I will ask a few questions to Professor Jung.
Sure. Thank you.
Professor
Thank you
Jung,
very much, Mr. Mahapatra. Thank you so much.
and please take care and stay healthy and
Yeah,
safe.
yeah. 1 week, one more week. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Professor Jung, can you unmute? Yes. And as you made presentation in your speech, like Korea is an aging society. So India offers some kind of medicines to Korean market. So what you would like to comment, what kind of medicines? Because I'm sure India is a competitive supplier of those medicines, drugs and APIs, and even India can be a contract manufacturer of medicines or drugs of those kind of drugs specifically, as India is most competitive manufacturing hub in the world.
So as you know, I mentioned it is introduced the Korean patent linkage. So it is a very important thing. Is that how can I first generic? So is that the analysis and the detail is that for the patent list, and then the first that did not infringement, and especially nowadays is the process is different. The first one in the and then in the new polymorphism is that original companies the cover of that polymorphism is the patent. In the Korea, so many of lawsuits about that the API for polymorphism. So it's the first, it's the early, is that the how can I did not the infringement the study. The first one is the needed to is the Korean companies the collaboration is the first one, and the second is that the it's the aging population that increasing, so it's the needed to demanded and the needed to chronic disease, the hypertension and the diabetes, that the market is the will be future is the increasing. So that is that the API is the that support to Korean the company Korean companies, as you know, that is the fully making process that is the very hard because is that human the payment is very high, so and the long time. So it's the Korean API very expensive. So Korean companies' the choice is the intermediate our is that the API. So Korean the import and then the finally synthesis of the API our is the purification process. And then the another the issues is the DMF profiling. Recently Korean the issues that is the ranitidine, that is the some impurity of course of the cancer. So the ranitidine is the drug in the Korean market. So is a strongly and very specific of the DMA profiling, and then the Korean expert too. It is very important to another things. That I think that is the another to mention it, that is the Korean is the companies, the many of the making the startup, the bioventure. Bioventure is the developed the new drug. They did not fully is the manufacturing. So it is very is the good partnership. Is the Korean bioventure and the India API company. So it is needed the collaboration, the R&D field and the technical transfer to India API company, and then the large scale the process develop and the manufacturing, the CMO for the Korean the biotechs will be approved that the United States and the EU. So it's needed to big many massing processing the site. So it's a good opportunity that the collaboration in the Korean the biotech company.
Thank you very much for your information, and this is very helpful for Indian pharma.
Yeah. So it will be the next years that the Korean pharma is the help that it will be good partnership in the India company and the Korean company. I think,
yes,
yeah, good opportunity.
And another thing I would like to ask you, like in your presentation, you talked about new drug development, like with your Korea's focus on new drug development. With your very rich experience in, you worked at a very senior position in Korea Health Industry Development Institute, KIDI, and Korean government has a very visionary policy of making Korea one of the largest new drug developers.
Yeah, right.
Right. So
yeah, right.
Okay.
So
and
in Korea is to make the pharmaceutical developing supporting act. So first one, the Korean government designation of the innovative pharmaceutical company, about the 14 companies. So they is the first one is the how can I is the strongly and innovative to new drug. So fully support that the R&D and the overseas, that is so many kind of the support program. It is a very good benchmarking to India government. It will be very helpful to the develop of the India the pharmaceutical company, I think.
Right. So my question is like how India and Korea can collaborate in this Korea government's focus on new drug development and like whether it is contract manufacturing or I have read the news like Celtrion made a very big investment plan in Wuhan. Celtrion is one of the members companies of KIDI. They made a huge investment plan of CDMO, contract development manufacturing.
Yeah,
Right, in Wuhan. So
yeah,
how it is possible to have this kind of opportunities for Indian biopharma manufacturing?
The situation is that recently announced that the China is the site is the big manufacturing plant will be make the plant. So Korean company is the first one thinking that is the market side. The China is the big market side. So maybe it's the choice to the situation choice to China. Also, picture, I think the picture is the India market is the expansion, increasing the picture. So picture, so more and more is collaboration with the Korean and the India side. Is the collaboration, especially that the manufacturing side, and it's needed to that the government to government is the collaboration is needed to, because as you know, it's the pharmaceutical industry very strongly regulation. So is that Korean is that nowadays MFDA is the try to MOU another is the country. So that is the first one more easy to approach that collaboration. But it is needed to that is the global standard. The Korean is already is fixed members and ICH members. So India is the also picture fixed and fixed members is the ICH members. First of all, is needed to join the members. That will be solution of more and more is the good collaboration.
Okay.
Yeah, and the investment side, the Korean government seed money, but nowadays is Korean is a private side. More and more is investment to new drug development or manufacturing. So it's so many in the Korean industry. The venture capital, the big investments, the field of the pharmaceutical. So it's the first one is the Korean government seed money is the make the fund and the effect to that private side. So it will be also India government seed money to make the fund. It's the fund is different to R&D fund. It's different. So I think that one of the solutions, the more and more investment to that increasing for the pharmaceutical in the to make the fund more and more, I think.
Yes, yes. And this is the time during the COVID, in the challenging time, many of the pharmaceutical companies, including Korean pharmaceutical companies, who have repurposed or developed drugs for COVID treatment, and in Korea, as well as in India also. Right. So for large scale manufacturing competitiveness, Korean company has tied up with Indian company, Mankind Pharma.
Yeah.
So do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So So there are several opportunities for Korean companies to tie up with Indian pharma companies for competitiveness in the world market. So that India and Korea have greater collaboration opportunities. And
yeah, right. I agree with you. Yeah.
So thank you very much, Professor Jung, for sharing your knowledge and experience. And I'm sure your information will be greatly helpful, and look forward to meeting you in Korea very soon.
Yes.
Okay.
See you next year.
Yeah. And thank you, Mr. Munish Gupta, Vice Chairman of Indian Chamber of Commerce, Vietnam. Okay, and it is pleasure meeting you virtually. And next time I come to Vietnam, I hope to meet you soon.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a nice day.
And and
Thank you.
it is really pleasure and privilege to have very high profile dignitaries in our inaugural day. His Excellency Mr. Bhagat, Deputy Chief of Mission, Indian Embassy, Seoul, Republic of Korea, and Mr. Udaya Bhaskar, Director General of PHARMEXCIL, and Mr. Reddy, who is the immediate past Chairman of PHARMEXCIL and full-time Director of Aurobindo Pharma, and Mr. Rajiv Nath is the Forum Coordinator of Association of Indian Medical Device Industry, and he is also the Managing Director of Hindustan Medical Devices. And we have, did I miss anybody?
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. And
yes, thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we close the proceedings of the inaugural
wishing
session.
all exhibitors great success.
Yes, and agree with Mr. Mapatra on that. We will wish all the exhibitors a very successful event with us, and also urging all our participants to visit the exhibition during the breaks that we have, as if now we have a 10-minute break before we commence with our panel discussion session at 12 o'clock. We would see you all there on, and there's a different link for that. We would request you to kindly go to that link and log in to the panel discussion on medical devices transforming India's potential into reality through international collaborations. And meanwhile, once again, urging all our participants to kindly visit the exhibition that we have. We have about 50 exhibitors participating in this event. Thank you very much indeed. See you all for the panel discussion session. Thank you once again, and namaskar.